We live in a world that often confuses humility with shame, politeness with people-pleasing, and kindness with the need to constantly say, "I'm sorry." But here's the truth. Apologies should be sacred, not scattered. And there are certain things you should never have to shrink yourself for, no explanation required. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught to apologize not just for our mistakes, but for our existence, for our feelings, our boundaries, our ambitions, and our truth. We are taught from a young age to be agreeable, to smile when we're uncomfortable, to say yes when everything inside of us is begging to say no. It's praised as being kind, polite, easygoing. But let me be honest, always saying yes doesn't make you kind, it makes you exhausted. There is nothing wrong with being generous or helpful, but when your yes comes at the cost of your well-being, your peace, or your truth, that's no longer generosity, that's self-abandonment. Saying no is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of clarity. It's a declaration that you understand your capacity, your needs, your energy, and your boundaries. It's saying, I know what I can carry, and this is where I draw the line. People might be disappointed by your no, and that's okay. You are not responsible for how others respond to your limits. You're responsible for honoring them. Let's be clear. You don't need a dramatic reason to say no. You don't have to be overwhelmed, sick, or falling apart. No is a complete sentence, period, full stop. We live in a world that romanticizes overcommitment. Hustle culture tells you that your worth is based on how much you can do and how many people you can please. But saying yes to everything is the fastest way to lose yourself. When you say no to what drains you, you make space for what feeds you. When you say no to obligation, guilt, and performance, you say yes to authenticity, presence, and peace. You're allowed to say, no, I can't make it. No, I'm not available. No, that doesn't feel right for me. No, I just need a quiet night. No, I'm focusing on myself right now. You don't have to cushion it. You don't have to over-explain. You don't have to apologize for knowing yourself. Boundaries are not barriers, they're bridges to healthier relationships, to deeper self-respect, and to a more sustainable life. So the next time you feel that pressure in your chest, the one that whispers, say yes so they'll like you, so you won't disappoint them, so you don't feel guilty. Pause, breathe, and remember, you are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to say no, and you do not need to apologize for it. We live in a culture that glorifies burnout, where exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor and rest is seen as weakness, where the grind never stops and busy is a socially acceptable answer to the question, how are you? But let me say this loud and clear. You are not a machine. You were never designed to function endlessly without pause. Needing rest does not make you lazy. It makes you human. You are not broken because you're tired. You are not falling behind because you need a break. You are not less worthy because you're choosing to slow down. Somewhere along the way, we learn to apologize for taking care of ourselves, as if the only value we bring to the world is in how much we produce, how fast we respond, how many things we juggle. And if we stop, even for a moment, we fear we'll be seen as unreliable, uncommitted, or weak. But the truth is, rest isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. You rest because you are committed, because you care deeply, because you want to keep showing up, and you know that you can't do that from an empty cup. Your body is not something to override. Your fatigue is not tomorrow. sitting in the silence, letting your mind exhale. When you rest, you are honoring your body, your brain, your soul. You are saying, I am not a resource to be depleted. I am a life to be cared for. To stop apologizing for needing a moment, for taking time to breathe, to sleep, to be. The rest is not wasted time, it is restoration. And sometimes the most productive thing you can do is allow yourself to pause, refill, and reconnect. The world will still spin. The tasks will still be there, but you will return fuller, softer, stronger. So take the rest, without guilt, without shame, and without apology. We've been conditioned, especially in moments of vulnerability, to shrink our emotional world to make others comfortable, to hold back tears, to mute our anger, to downplay our joy, soften our pain, and silence our fears. We hear things like, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive. Why are you crying again? Don't take it so personally. And over time, those little comments plant a belief deep inside of us that our emotions are too much, that feeling is something to apologize for. But let me say this clearly. Your emotions are not a flaw, they're a function. They are not the enemy of logic or strength or self-control. They are your body and soul trying to speak to you in a language older than words. And when you apologize for your emotions, you tell yourself that your inner truth is something to hide, something to be ashamed of, something that makes you inconvenient. But what if we flipped that? What if tears were not seen as weakness, but as release? What if anger wasn't dismissed as drama, but recognized as a signal that something's not okay? What if joy didn't have to be toned down so others wouldn't feel small in our light? Emotions aren't liabilities. They are evidence that you are alive. To feel is to be in touch with your own humanity. To cry is to cleanse. To laugh is to connect. To grieve is to honor what mattered. You are allowed to cry in public. Say, I'm not okay when you're not. Show up in your pain without pretending. Feel overwhelmed and not have a solution yet. Be sensitive, because sensitivity means you care deeply. Is you don't have to slap a smile on your face just to make other people feel more comfortable. You don't have to be emotionally convenient for others to accept you. The people who deserve to be in your life won't shame you for your tears. They'll make space for them. They won't shut down your sadness. They'll sit in it with you. And they won't call your vulnerability too much. They'll call it beautiful. So stop apologizing for feeling deeply. You are not dramatic. You are not unstable. You are not weak. You are a whole, complex, powerful human being. And your emotions are your sacred companions on this journey. Let your heart speak. Let your truth show. And let it be enough without an apology. Somewhere along the line, we were taught that kindness means being constantly available, that love means sacrificing yourself, that saying yes to everything, even at your own expense, is what makes you a good person. But that's not kindness. That's conditioning. Let's be honest, we weren't taught how to set boundaries. We were taught how to please people. We were told not to rock the boat, to be easygoing, and to just go along with it. And when we finally speak up and say, that doesn't work for me, or I can't give that right now, we feel guilty, like we've done something wrong. But here's the truth you need to hear today. You are not wrong for protecting your peace. You are not selfish for needing space. You are not difficult for being clear about what you will and won't accept. Boundaries are not walls. They're not cold, cruel, or unkind. They are gates, filters, fences with open doors. They don't push people away. They show people how to love you better. When you set boundaries, you are saying, I know my worth. I trust myself. I honor my needs. I am responsible for how I let people treat me. And yet, people might be uncomfortable when you start enforcing them, especially if they were benefiting from you having none. Or they might call you distant. They might accuse you of changing. They might say you're too much or not enough now. But that discomfort is not your cue to apologize. It's your cue to stay grounded. Because your boundaries are not about punishing anyone, they're about protecting you, your energy, your values, your emotional well-being. You are allowed to say no without explaining yourself. Change your mind. As an example, stop overextending for people who take more than they give. End conversations that cross a line. Walk away from relationships that require self-betrayal to sustain. You don't have to keep shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your fullness. You don't have to tolerate discomfort to keep others from feeling disappointed. And you don't have to apologize for having the courage to finally say, this is my limit. This is what I need. This is what I will no longer allow. Your boundaries are not burdens. They are acts of deep self-love. So protect your peace without guilt. Say what you need without apology. And trust that the right people won't just respect your boundaries, they'll thank you for them. We work so hard to achieve it. We push, sacrifice, stretch, learn, grow, fail, and try again, only to feel like once we finally get there, we have to downplay it. So we shrink, we laugh it off, we throw in little disclaimers. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I just got lucky. I didn't really do anything special. We dim the very light we work so hard to ignite. Because we're afraid of being too proud, too visible, too confident. We've been conditioned to believe that our success might make others uncomfortable, that celebrating ourselves might come off as arrogant or self-centered. But here's what they never told you. Your success does not require an apology. You do not owe anyone your smallness just so they can feel taller. You don't have to pretend to be less so others aren't threatened by your more. When you win, when you rise, when you shine, you are not bragging. You are reflecting what's possible. You are honoring your growth. You are modeling what it means to rise without guilt. Let's be clear. You didn't just stumble into success. You built it through late nights and early mornings, through doubt and detours, through sweat, sacrifice, heartbreak, and relentless hope. And that deserves more than a quiet nod. It deserves your full presence. You are allowed to speak proudly of your accomplishments. Share your joy without dimming it. Stand tall in the spaces you once only dreamed of reaching. Feel good unapologetically about who you're becoming. And if someone feels triggered by your success, it's not your job to make yourself smaller. That's their reflection to face, not your responsibility to fix. Real ones will celebrate with you. They won't see your elevation as competition, but as inspiration. They won't compare your path to theirs. They'll say, you made it through, and that means I can too. Because your success doesn't take anything away from anyone else. It adds light to the room. It adds courage to others. It just says, this is possible, and so much more is too. So stop apologizing for your glow up. Stop watering yourself down just to fit into someone else's idea of humble. Humility isn't pretending you didn't work for it. Humility is knowing where you came from and showing gratitude without erasing your greatness. You don't need to hide. You don't need to dim. You don't need to explain. Own it. Stand in it. Shine with it. Not with arrogance, but with reverence for the journey you've taken to get here. Because you didn't come this far to whisper. You came this far to be seen without apology. There is nothing more exhausting, more soul-draining than constantly editing yourself to make other people comfortable. We've all been there. Swallowing our opinions, changing our tone, softening our truth, hiding the parts of ourselves that feel too loud, too intense, too emotional, too different. Trying to fit into boxes we were never made for just to avoid rejection, judgment, or being misunderstood. But let me tell you something you may not hear enough. You do not have to apologize for who you are. Not for your personality, not for your background, not for your quirks, your fire, your softness, your voice, your vision, your truth. The world does not need another carbon copy. It doesn't need you to dilute your magic to match its comfort zone. What the world actually needs desperately is your realness. your full, unfiltered, unapologetic presence. You are allowed to be bold and quiet, wild and thoughtful, fierce and tender, ambitious and messy, healing and still hurting. You're allowed to be a walking contradiction because you are human. You are allowed to evolve, to change your mind, to take up space, to be seen in your whole self. You don't need to perform likability to be worthy of love. You don't need to shrink your presence to be taken seriously. You don't need to over-explain your essence just to earn a seat at the table. Who you are is not a mistake. Your story is not too complicated. Your dreams are not too big. Your presence is not too